What is up, guys? It is the Bluebloods here, back with another Week 7 preview, man. And we have a huge, extremely important AAC matchup this weekend in Nippers Stadium. UCF traveling up to take on number 3 Cincinnati this weekend. Cincinnati is a 21-point favorite. This game kicks off on ABC at 11 a.m. Central Time, be 12 p.m. Eastern time if you guys are in the Eastern time zone. But man, you're talking about a matchup that not only has AAC championship implications, but also college football playoff implications in terms of Cincinnati, and is going to feature one of the best teams in the country and another one with a head coach in his first year looking to make a statement. They've caught the injury bug. So for me, the stakes couldn't be any higher this weekend. It is a Gus Malzahn team with nothing to lose. And we've seen at Auburn what that could mean for these high-ranked teams, as Gus Malzahn has done this before. So in terms of storylines, the Bearcats come in, of course, everyone knows 5-0. They find themselves in the top 3 in the country, right in the thick of the college football playoff race, and they're looking to make a statement against a UCF team that many people deemed their stiffest competition in this conference over the past few seasons and coming into this year. So a big win here. One of like the point spread of 21 or more points would do wonders for Cincinnati's resume because, as we all know, the schedule's going to get critiqued. So from now on, Luke Fickell and this team knows they not only have to one win, but to do it impressively week in and week out. Now, the Knights, they come into this game at 3-2. Head coach Gus Malzahn is looking to turn things around with a signature win to kick off his first year as head coach down there in Orlando, but they face so many injuries, man. They've lost plenty of contributors throughout these first few weeks, but you can never count out Gus Malzahn when you have a highly ranked team coming in to face one of his teams. He's beaten 6 top 10 teams in his career, all of them at Auburn while he was the head coach there. So don't think this is going to be a cakewalk. UCF is by far capable of pulling off the upset this weekend. Now, in terms of the history of this matchup, it's tied 3-3. These teams met for the first time in 2015 when they got together in the AAC. But the Bearcats have won the last 2 matchups against UCF, both by 3 points. They've been highly competitive games. So Cincinnati knows that when UCF comes to town, it's going to be a game. And in terms of the key to victory for each of these teams, let's start with the Bearcats. It's always going to be let Desmond Ridder run this offense and make plays. The key is just to let Desmond Ridder get into his rhythm and go out there and win you the game. When you have a quarterback like Desmond Ridder, you just have to trust him to be the focal point of this offense and get it going. And on top of that, you have a UCF defense giving up over 360 yards per game. And so for me, it's a recipe to really let Desmond Ridder be himself, show his experience, show his explosiveness, and just show what he can do on the football field. And when you're looking at this offense, it's averaging over 430 yards per game, a balanced attack with 260 through the air, over 170 on the ground, and they're averaging 41 points per game, which gives them a top 10 scoring offense in the country right now. And when you look at Ridder, why I picked him as the key, he's the winningest quarterback in FBS in the FBS right now with more than 10 starts, and has placed himself among the candidates for dark horse Heisman as a dark horse in the Heisman race this year with over 1,300 passing yards, 12 touchdowns, 3 rushing touchdowns, only 2 turnovers, and he's completing over 65% of his passes. And that's elite level production. He's the reason they're sitting at 5-0, and he's the reason that many people think Cincinnati needs to be the team to break into the college football playoff in the group of 5. And the dangerous part about Ridder's game for me is not just his athleticism out the pocket, which a lot of people talk about. It's his ability to attack the defense at every level. He's most dangerous when he has the time and ability in a loaded box to uncork that deep ball and push the ball deep down the field. That's where Ridder becomes most dangerous, is when he can combine the athleticism with the deep ball. on passes 20 or plus yards down the field. He's thrown for almost 500 yards, 4 touchdowns, no turnovers, has 9 big-time throws, and a 92.1 passing grade according to Pro Football Focus's advanced analytics. That is where he shines, and that is where he becomes extremely dangerous because once he starts pushing the deep ball, pushing that deep ball, that running game is going to open up. And we'll talk about that in just a second as another key. But this correlates with just the overall. If you can't get pressure on Ritter, we saw Notre Dame at times when they kind of closed that lead back up with the big fumble return. You have to get pressure on Ritter or he's going to pick you apart. When he's kept clean in the pocket, his completion percentage jumps to 70%. He's thrown for over 1,000 yards, over 9 yards per completion, 9 touchdowns, and only one of those turnovers when he's kept clean in the pocket. UCF is going to have to get after Ritter, make him uncomfortable in the pocket, and really just make him uncomfortable throughout the game. Because if you let him get into his rhythm, he's going to absolutely destroy this defense for UCF. And that's why I picked Jerome Ford as another key for the Bearcats this weekend, because this offense, as good as it is, it hits like turbo level. It hits another level of just effectiveness when Ford and Ritter are both clicking together on the field. Ford has over 500 yards rushing, guys, over 6 yards per carry, and 8 rushing touchdowns. He has 13 explosive runs this season, and he takes care of the ball with only 1 fumble this year. And when you look at how he does it, the edge defenders and those outside linebackers are going to have a lot of pressure put on them. Those safeties in the open field, Ford is going to attack the edge of the offensive line, the edge of the defense, and try to get outside of you. He's averaging almost 10 yards a carry for the entire season when running off tackle or off the tight end in any formation this season. So you are going to have to set the edge of your UCF, make open field tackles, and you're going to have to make the Bearcats one-dimensional. There is no way you can beat the Cincinnati team if you're letting Ritter and Ford and this offensive line all click and get in sync together, because they are just too talented at all levels of this offense. So the UCF defense is going to have to be strong in the run game and say, listen, you're going to do one or the other, but you're not going to do both on us. And they're going to have to turn this into a dirty physical game. And that's what you want from this UCF defense. But Ford and Ritter are going to be the keys for Cincinnati this Saturday. And for the Knights, man, it's so hard to pick, man, because of these injuries. I mean, they caught the unlucky break of having the injury bug this year. I mean, but it has to be the rushing attack, mostly because Dylan Gabriel potentially out for the season. There's rumors he could have a late season return. Broken clavicle, which means freshman Mikey Keene is going to have to step up again. Joey Gatewood is the backup there, so it'd be interesting if Keene has a tough day. Are they going to trust Gatewood to go in and make some plays? But having this running game going is going to take pressure off of Keene against this extremely tough Bearcat secondary. They're only allowing 170 yards through the air per game, and this defense is forcing almost 3 turnovers per game this season. So you got to run the ball and take pressure off of your freshman quarterback in what's going to be a very, very hostile environment up there in Cincinnati. Now, the Knights have lost already their top 2 running backs. RJ Harvey's out for the year with a leg injury, and Isaiah Bowser hurt his leg. His timetable hasn't really been announced. It's kind of TBD as of right now, but those guys are both hurt, which means that Mark Anthony Richards, Johnny Richardson, and Trillian Coles must step up for this running game of UCF. Richardson has already been productive, over 300 yards rushing, over 7 yards per carry, guys, and a rushing touchdown. Richardson is going to have a big game this weekend in Nippert if UCF even plans to keep this game close. Coles and Richards both are averaging over 5 yards per carry, both have just over 200 yards rushing combined, and both have a rushing touchdown this year. Gus Malzahn likes to have his workhorse, but he also has a nice rotation of guys, especially against big physical defenses like they're going to see against Cincinnati this weekend. Now, the rushing attack has to ease the burden on King because his passing grade's only a 53.2 on passes that are not part of some sort of play action concept. That's not going to work against the Cincinnati defense. On no play action plays, he's throwing less than 200. He's thrown for less than 200 yards. He's only completing about 4 yards per pass, 0 touchdowns and a pick and only has one explosive play on 43 dropbacks with no play action. You are going to have to create some sort of advantage for Keene this weekend if you're Gus Malzahn. You're going to have to put him in favorable situations, and you're going to have route concepts where he can get some high percentage throws and you can get the ball to your athletes on the outside to go make plays. Now, on play action, the story is completely different. Over 260 through the air, averaging almost 9 yards to completion, 3 touchdowns, and only one pick. And the passing grade jumps to 76. That's why this rushing attack has to be really, really good this weekend for UCF to help Keene. You have to get Richardson really going. Johnny Richardson, for me, is the X factor for UCF. And as we've seen at Auburn, if Gus Malzahn can run the ball, he can be in any sort of game because that's when his offense is flowing and in that flow state where they can put points up on anybody. But if you shut down the run, that's when trouble happens. So UCF, especially against an elite secondary like we're going to see this weekend, you have to run the football. Now, the matchup to watch for me is clear. UCF is going to have to put points up in this game because Cincinnati is going to score. So it's going to have to be this UCF wide receiving core up against one of the best secondaries in the country that the Bearcats are going to be bringing into this game. They've only allowed quarterbacks to complete about 48% of their passes. They have a top 5 scoring defense in the country with only 12 points per game allowed this season. They've allowed under 70 points this entire season to be scored. You are going to have these wide receivers are going to have to play big time football this weekend if UCF plans on pulling the huge upset this weekend. Now, UCF has already lost one of their best wide receivers, man. I'm telling you, the injury bug is real down there in Orlando. Jalen Robinson is potentially out for the year, which means Ryan O'Keefe, Caden Robinson, and Brandon Johnson are really going to have to step up this weekend and have big, big games. O'Keefe has already had a big season, 28 catches for over 300 yards and a touchdown, while Johnson has 5 touchdowns already, 240 yards and over 20 catches. These wide receivers, the key for me is they have to try to find separation against this really good secondary, and they're going to have to try to be explosive down the field. And if they can get separation, they have to make the catch. Drop passes, tipped up in the air passes are going to result in, one, the offense stalling, and two, if you tip a pass up against this defense, it's probably going to be picked. So you need consistent production out of your wide receiving core to really help out your freshman quarterback. It's all going to be about one-on-one matchups on the outside. Can O'Keefe and Johnson go out there and beat a Gardner and a Kobe Bryant? That's what it's going to come down to, and these wide receivers are going to have to win this matchup if UCF plans to escape Nippert with a huge upset win. Now, the Bearcat secondary is led by Ahmad Sauce Gardner, man, at the DB spot. He's the best cornerback in the country, in my opinion. He's yet to allow a touchdown in his entire career. This season, he's only allowed 6 catches for 41 yards and has 2 INTs already. And I think they're going to avoid him. So the real X factor for me is Kobe Bryant and Arquan Bush, the other 2 corners in this backfield. They're going to have to be very, very productive, and they're going to have to shut down some of these other guys in this UCF passing attack. If you can make them one-dimensional and then you can load the box and these wide receivers can't create separation, this offense is going to falter, and Cincinnati's running away with this one. So Bryant's only allowed 13 catches this year, has a pick, has a touchdown. Bush only 12 catches on 24 targets and already has 2 picks. They've stepped up big time. But this weekend is going to be one that they're going to have a statement in my opinion, because we know even though the injuries are there, UCF has some talented athletes on the outside of this offense at the wide receiver spot that can go make plays. Now, the safety spot is also going to be one to watch in this matchup. Javon Hicks and Brian Cook, they're going to have to be strong in pass coverage as always, but I'm also interested to see how they step up in the run game. I would imagine that Cincinnati is going to try to load the box early. They're going to trust their corners on islands, and they're going to see if UCF can beat you. And if you can't, it's going to be a long day for UCF. So can Hicks and Cook have big days in the rushing game, in the rush defense aspect of their game, or is UCF going to be able to make plays behind them? So I think Cincinnati and Luke Fickell are going to trust Kobe Bryant, Arquan Bush, Sauce Gardner, all those guys, they're going to trust them on islands to go make plays. And what they're going to do is try to shut down this run game and say, can your true freshman quarterback come into our stadium against one of the best secondaries in the country and win this game? That's why the wide receivers are going to have to go out there and make plays for their young quarterback. Now, for the prediction, man, I've covered UCF once this year. I picked them to beat Boise. They had a huge comeback win against Boise, and it was one of the best games of the season. Honestly, I've picked Cincinnati every time I've had them on the podcast too. I really believe this team can be a college football playoff team. If it was a healthy versus healthy matchup, I think this game could be a huge upset alert for Cincinnati, especially if Dylan Gabriel and Robinson at wide receiver, all these guys are healthy. They got some offensive linemen out. There's just too many injuries for me to feel comfortable picking UCF. I think Cincinnati's legit this year. They deserve that number 3 ranking, in my opinion. I think they pull away in this one. Cincinnati 48, UCF 23 this weekend in Nippert Stadium in Cincinnati. That is my score. I got the Bearcats 48, the Knights 23. So, guys, if you're new, smash that subscribe button. Go ahead and hit that thumbs up, like the video, man. I appreciate y'all doing that. Also, take some time, comment your score predictions, comment your thoughts on the game, and just let me know what you're thinking about this huge AAC matchup this weekend in Cincinnati. But, guys, I appreciate y'all tuning in. Can't wait to get y'all some more Week 7 previews tomorrow. But for right now, the Blue Bloods are out.